and welcome to The Trade. Before we get into the technicals, a quick look at what traders are watching. Iranian state TV reporting on an unofficial draft of an agreement that would have Iran and Oman managing shipping through the Strait of Hormuz as part of a deal to end the war that would restore commercial shipping through the strategic waterway to pre-war levels within a month. However, of course, we've also heard this morning that the US has launched fresh strikes on Iran, and President Trump has dismissed the report, appearing to threaten Oman, saying, quote, "Nobody's going to control the strait. It is international waters and Oman will behave just like everybody else or we'll have to blow them up. They understand that, they'll be fine." Meanwhile, Minneapolis Fed President Neil Kashkari says the inflationary shockwave sent across the globe from the Middle East war could persist, a concern that was working its way into the bond market, going on to say that they've had elevated inflation for 5 years, and that affects his willingness to look through what otherwise should be a temporary supply shock. US Treasury yields up marginally, the 2-year up above 4%, the 10-year at 4.48%, and Aussie 3-year government bond yields at 4.5%, 10-year getting back towards 5%. Having a quick look at currencies, the Australian dollar is at 71.3 US cents. Well, currency markets are on edge as traders react to fresh geopolitical developments in the Gulf. Oil prices once again driving sentiment across global markets. And later tonight, all eyes will also be on US core PCE inflation data, which could reinforce the case for higher for longer interest rates and give the dollar another leg higher. Let's get across it all with Nick Twidale from ATFX. Good to see you, Nick.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with oil because, we've got these fresh headlines of more strikes.
Yeah, I mean, oil's been dictating markets for the last 3 months, as we know. And it took a significant step down yesterday, despite fresh strikes from the US. So you'd think the oil market is pricing in a bit of peace coming in the Strait of Hormuz. But those comments that we've just got from President Trump, they don't seem particularly peaceful at all, do they? So I think we may see a little bit of a move. But we got a big breakdown yesterday. This is WTI, West Texas. And I spotted it this morning, interested. We got a decent rally back up to that support line. That's acting as resistance now. So we're probably going to see resistance around that $95 level, but it really will. I'm expecting much more volatility in oil, as I suppose we all are, over the next few sessions and days. But I'm surprised to see it down here now, given the information we're getting, certainly from President Trump. So I think, maybe we could see a little bit of a test back to those topside levels, unless some deal comes through soon, which it doesn't seem likely to me.
Yeah, it's just going back and forth, isn't it? All right, let's get into currencies then and kick it off with our dollar, because I mentioned there could be a leg up for the greenback, but we had our inflation data yesterday. What are you seeing with the Aussie?
Yeah, so Aussie took a little bit of a dip because it came in a little bit, which is kind of refreshing for any of us that own homes, I think. But whether it's enough to really pull back any of the hawkishness from the RBA, I don't think so at the moment. Inflation's still sticky. But looking at the technicals for the Aussie, I think one of the reasons we've just seen that little bit of a step up is we're sitting on a really good support line in the daily text. It is going to come down to tonight what we get fresh updates in the Middle East. If we do see this hostilities start to resume in a harder context, then I think the dollar's going to take off and we'll see the Aussie slip. Also, we've got this core PCE price index, which we know is the Fed's favoured. That's expected to come in at 0.3 of the month on month, and I think 3.3 for the year on year, which is way above 2%, which the Fed wants. So if we get sticky numbers there, I think the dollar could take another leg up, and that will probably take Aussie down towards those lows that we saw earlier in the month.
What about the euro? Because it was interesting, one of the ECB members was saying earlier in the week that they still think there needs to be, some movement potentially to the upside, given that there is so much uncertainty about what we've just discussed with the Strait of Hormuz being closed.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same for everyone and every central bank. So the stagflation's kind of rife around the world, isn't it? And Europe's another one that's suffering. And so it does feel like that you're going to have to see rates move higher, and that should support the euro. But at the moment, I think the dollar side of the equation will probably outstrip it, especially with the inflation numbers tonight. So we're getting rhetoric from central bankers across the world. Data's really going to count. So that data tonight, I think, will outstrip it. And if you look at euro, once again, euro's sitting on a decent support line as well. So that US number comes out, or we see fresh hostilities in the Gulf, and then euro's going to dive as well. But you could get some support from what we're seeing. And also, we know what President Trump's like. He could flip on a dime. we could see a deal signed within a few days, right?
Yeah, you never know, do you? Okay, what's happening over in Japan? What are we seeing with the yen?
So that's the fun and games, isn't it? It's been very, very tight. It's trading in tight ranges, and we know the Bank of Japan are out there, and we know the Ministry of Finance are watching it very closely. So again, tonight could be key. Fundamentals are driving dollar yen higher. The dollar's certainly dictating that move, but we've seen some massive moves on the back of intervention over the last couple of months. Tonight could be very, very interesting. We get a higher core PCE number. That should see dollar yen moving back up towards that 160 level and then maybe up to 161. BOJ do not like it up there, so we could see massive volatility tonight. So we've had a week of quite low volatility for dollar yen, but it could get really crazy quite soon.
160 nearly. Okay, then let's have a quick look as well. Are you sending any money home at the moment?
I'm not sending any money home. No, sterling's in a similar spot to everyone else. We've seen sterling Aussie come off fairly significantly, and that's been supported by the Aussie strength, and we know why we've got that. We've got the sticky inflation, and jobs numbers here are great. UK's in a bit of political turmoil at the moment. They're in a heat wave at the moment, I believe, as well. So that could
the 2 days of the year
that could add the other side of energy pricing, where they've actually got to switch on the aircon. But cable itself mid-range at the moment, so it's got scope to move either to 136 fairly swiftly or back down sort of to 133. So no, I'm keeping my Aussie for the moment.
All right, Nick, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nick Twidale from ATFX, and of course pointing out that core PCE inflation data is key for traders. That does it for this edition of The Trade. Be sure to join us next time.